Stop and think about this for a moment. Over 400,000 children are in foster care in this country. 400,000. What's being done to help not only kids in the system, but those who age out? Hello, everyone, and welcome to Comcast Newsmakers. I'm Robert Traynham, and I'm joined by Congresswoman Karen Bass, Democrat from California. Congresswoman, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me on.
That's an alarming number, 400,000. And what's interesting about that number is 27% are relatives are in homes. In other words, they have relatives that are at home, and 47% are non-relative homes. Typically
a grandmother. A grandmother is taking care of a grandchild to keep the child out of foster care with a stranger.
And that's a good thing, right?
It is.
I mean, it could be much, much worse.
Right.
But why is the number so high? Why is it 400,000 individuals?
Well, the number one reason why children are in foster care is due to neglect. And the number one reason for that neglect is substance abuse. So substance abuse, mental illness, a lot of times lead to a parent being unable to take care of their child. The state has to intervene and remove that child from the home.
Why is this such a passion of yours?
Well, you know what, quiet as it's kept, this is one of the few issues that Democrats and Republicans come together on.
Finally, something that's bipartisan.
It is.
Finally.
It is bipartisan, and we work in both houses of Congress. You know, I had the privilege of growing up with two wonderful parents, and the idea that there are close to 500,000 children without families, I think it's the responsibility, since the government takes the child from the parent, then the government becomes the parent. So I want to make sure that our government is the best parent possible for these children until their families are able to take back.
And so it sounds like what you're saying is it takes a village. It takes a village to be able to help this child transition from foster care back into, perhaps, hopefully, into their home. But how do you do that when budgets are so thin?
Well, we have been having very good results in many different cities and states around the country. And so this is an issue where money is not always the solution. So there are very good practices that are in force around the country, and really we need to publicize that and generalize those best practices.
Are you suggesting, Congresswoman, that there perhaps is a private component to this, maybe a public-partner private ship or something like that?
Well, there actually are a number of public-private partnerships.
Okay.
For example, there's a number of foundations. The Casey Foundation is one of the leading philanthropic efforts around the country that is not only studying the issue, but also funding efforts and non-governmental organizations that are addressing children in their particular communities.
I want to go back to the positive in all of this, and you mentioned the bipartisanship between you and your Republican colleagues on Capitol Hill. What else can be done in a bipartisan fashion to bring families together?
Well, really there are a lot of things that need to be done. One of the first and foremost is that when a child turns 18, we quote-unquote emancipate them, which unfortunately—
They're an adult then, correct?
Yes, but unfortunately in too many examples that means that we essentially put them out on the street.
And oftentimes they may not have the life skills, they may not have the people skills, they may not have the support structure to move on to college or vocational school or whatever the case may be.
And truly, I don't care how many life skills and people skills you have, for even a middle-class child leaving a stable family, they can't be independent at 18 because financially they cannot afford that. And so every young adult needs a transition period. Now, in a middle-class home, that typically is college, but given the economy over the last couple of decades, how many college graduates are returning home because they can't afford to be independent? And so this safety net we need to build in our country.
And you're saying that you can do that, or you're optimistic that that can be done on a bipartisan?
I'm very optimistic, and let me give you an example. We passed a piece of legislation last year to assist with education. It was a unanimous consent, meaning there were no votes.
Congressman, thank you very much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me
And
on.
of course, thank you for joining us for this edition of Comcast Newsmakers. I'm Robert Traynham. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.